Hello and welcome to the Wedding Dish Podcast. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things weddings. You'll hear stories and tips from real couples and wedding pros about love, life, and entrepreneurship. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest on the Wedding Dish Podcast, Sarah Alipin, and I am also the CEO of Photos from the Hardy and District Bliss. Before we get started, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, you absolutely have to check it out. We have another amazing guest who talks all about wedding planning and how you can get the most out of that day and the experience. I won't spoil it, but you have to listen. Thanks everyone for tuning into the Wedding Dish. Let's dish. Today, we are talking with a wedding planner who creates bespoke, character-full, exceptional destination weddings in France. The human behind Voila weddings. Anne-Laure, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a really great pleasure.
And hopefully I said your name okay. I really tried with my terrible French accent.
You said it perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Wedding Dish today. I am really excited to talk to you about not just destination wedding planning, but also, what actual, the wedding planning in this day and age where we have so much information available to us on the internet and through social media and that kind of thing, and how that translates into our actual wedding experience on the day of.
Mm-hmm.
All
Absolutely.
Right. So I know that you are incredibly passionate about planning weddings with the end goal of the incredible experience for both the couple and guests in mind. So actually being physically in the space. And why is that goal so important to you during the wedding planning process?
It's just that something I really always felt strongly about. I suppose I've always loved seeing people come together and enjoying spending time together. I know that these time spent with your loved ones are quite special. It's not every day that you've got, family and friends around. And yeah, I suppose it's very important to me that, we make these moments extra special and extra enjoyable.
I love that. I think that's so important too. And I think in this age where we have social media, where we have Pinterest, where we can scroll on Instagram and we're looking at styled shoots where it's maybe an empty space with a table or an empty space with an altar and the couple. And how do you filter through and plan a wedding that is experienced day of, physically in the space, surrounded by the people who you love and love you the most? How do you translate those images into, or manage your expectations surrounding those images versus the actual experience in the space?
So it's something that is really difficult to communicate even to our couples and to prospective couples and bride and grooms to be, or couples to be, because today people just go online and, as you said, on Instagram and Pinterest, and they see those images and they imagine their wedding being just that, but their wedding is so much more than that. And even they, I think, don't realize it, and they don't really think it's hard for them to think forward and think, how is it going to actually feel on the day? And it's our job to keep that in mind. And of course, we all want, a wedding day to be beautiful, and that's part of the experience as well. It's very important to create spaces that are, inviting, harmonious, and obviously if you've got the lovely flowers and the colors and all of that works together to create a space and an atmosphere that is going to be that's going to feel comfortable and that's going to feel enjoyable to your guests. But there's a whole lot of ways and the things that come into account when it comes to making it a really great wedding, and not only a beautiful wedding. So a beautiful wedding is great. We want an amazing wedding that is beautiful and that feels amazing, and that goes that's through entertainment, that is through, caring about your guests, making them feel welcome, having space for them, having, if you're having a wedding just south of France and it's very hot and sunny, having shade available and having, I don't know, fans or whatever to make them feel better and more comfortable, having a good level of service. And also lots of the time, something that is important to me, and I know my couples don't always realize it, is the vendors, the team that is behind, create the vibe as well. Like if you've got a really good team of vendors that work well together, they're going to make your day feel better. And it's hard to explain how and why, but it's just the vibe of the day is going to be so much better if you've got the greatest team. So it's really quite complete for us in terms of work, is making sure that we get the couple the look that they're after, but also the environment and the atmosphere that that guests are going to enjoy, and the right vibe on the day from everyone on the ground.
That's so interesting that you say that, because intuitively I know that, but I don't think that anyone has ever actually said it like that. And one of the things that I hear all the time at weddings from guests, like as soon as the reception starts and we're through like the family photos and all that kind of thing, I'll have parents come up to me specifically and start telling me what an amazing job I've done. And they haven't seen the photos. And I'm always surprised by that, because I'm like, you don't know what I've done actually. But what they're reflecting back to me is my level of enjoyment being there and how excited I am to participate as the photographer. And that's such a great point, because when I have worked with people who read very, not necessarily negative, but like who just aren't engaged with their full heart on the vendor team, it stands out. And that's, it kind of,
It
never,
really does. It's not something that you can really grasp, but I mean, you can't point at it, but it does feel. So it's really, I always say, also the guests coming happy makes such a difference.
Yes.
And so all the preparation work about how we communicate to the guests ahead of the wedding is super important, because if your guests arrive on site and they're already expecting, excited, and they're already like full of joy of, like just knowing, just from your wedding website or invitation, they've got an excitement and anticipation, that makes such a difference. And your guests make the day as well. They make the vibe of the wedding. So it's a whole
I love
thing.
that. I love that. That's well said. So for couples who are planning destination weddings, because I know that you plan destination weddings in France, you said Paris, Provence, and
the
Riviera.
Yes.
And all incredible locations. And how does that process work? Like, where do couples even start planning a destination wedding in France?
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's the same for any couple planning a wedding. I suppose it's quite overwhelming at first. And really, I would say, if I have to give advice, the first step should be finding the perfect wedding planner, because once you've got the great wedding planner that you can trust, and that person is going to make things so much easier for you.
Oh my God, yes.
So the first step should always be, if you're going to have a wedding planner, look for a good wedding planner. Look online, whether it's Google, Instagram, and select a few, have some interviews, and select someone who you feel really comfortable with. And that person is going to make the process super easy. And so regardless of whether you have a wedding planner or not, then the next stage is going to be finding a venue. And so obviously finding the perfect venue is the very first thing that you're going to look for. So that obviously dictates location and date and everything. So the first thing that we do with our couples is to find a venue that works with their vision, that works with their numbers. We always ask a lot of questions to our couples before going into the venue search stage to understand what they have in mind. What do you want to create? What vibe are you after? How many days would you like? Because lots of the time we do multi-day weddings, so we'd have a welcome dinner or party, and then the wedding day, and then the next farewell brunch. So just knowing, what they want to, how many days and how many events they want to plan, so that we make sure that we select a venue that allows them to do everything that they would like. and also trying to understand, again, their guests. Like, what are their guests accustomed to? Like, what would be their expectations? What types of weddings do their guests usually attend? What would make it extra special for them and different? And so we search for a venue, and the couples usually go on site visits if they can. And then once they've got their venue, then everything gets much easier. And then we go into the vendor sourcing stage, and that's a long process of one by one discussing, what the couples are after for photography, for example, what style of photography are they after, what do they like, and then sourcing the best vendors and best photographers for their needs and wants. And we repeat that process for each and every vendor that we are going to need for the day, adapting to what our couples would like and what works for, again, their vision and their vibe. That makes sense?
It does. And what's so interesting is, as you were going through this, I was like, I can tell that you're really good at this, even though we've never worked together, because even just knowing how the different styles of photography and how that actually matters is so important. It's like a different cuisine, right? Like, if you don't like, Italian food, then don't have Italian food at your wedding. And if you don't want highly posed photography and you want more candids, then you need to find a documentary style or photojournalistic style photographer. And vice versa. If Italian food is your favorite, then have it at the wedding. And if you really want those like highly posed, artistic, like beautiful, every photo is like a showstopper, then find a photographer that specializes in that. And when you're planning a destination wedding, knowing that you have a really good wedding planner is so vital, because of those vendor connections and the understanding of what your style is and what your priorities are, so that you can refer the right photographers, not just who you like to work with. So I love everything about this. I can tell you're a very couple forward or client forward planner, and that you like prioritize what the couples want without having to get your soapbox out to do it.
Thank you so much.
I love that. So why should couples, consider planning their destination weddings in France? What about France is so magical, and especially the different areas in France?
So it's really interesting, because in France we have many different areas, and they attract different types of couples. And the couple who would like to get married in Paris is not after the same experience at all than a couple who would want to get married on the French Riviera. And again, a couple wanting to have a Riviera wedding probably is not the same as a couple who would like a Provence wedding. And then there's Brittany and southwest of France, which I don't cover, but also some people, love these areas as well, and they have each different things to offer. Why would you have a wedding in France? Most of our couples have a connection somehow to France. So either they studied there and they love the country, they love the food, the wine. I mean, food and wine is, almost always what comes up when I ask why would you like to get married in France. It's usually the lifestyle and the food. And most of the time they do have a connection. So as I said, either they studied there at some point, or very often they've gone to France with their parents as children for the holidays, and they have fond memories of the French way of life, and the long lunches, the long dinners, or the beauty of Paris. So that's why they want to go back there and make their guests discover it.
I love that. I love France. It's a huge country in terms of the different backdrops, the different cultures. And you make such a great point. The couple who's going to get married in Provence is not going to necessarily be the couple who would look at Paris as an option. Or maybe they would look, but they would quickly eliminate it as their backdrop for their wedding day.
It's a very different vibe, yeah. So
yeah,
it's very different offer.
I love that. What final advice do you have for couples who are planning a destination wedding in France?
Ooh. I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
You are going to be so happy that you've made that choice, even if it seems daunting at first. And I mean, you're going to love it. I mean, just find the right team. If you are looking for a wedding planner, just find the right wedding planner for you. And I assure you that we are going to create something really beautiful, and your guests are going to really enjoy it. Sometimes, people are a bit worried about doing a destination weddings and guests having to travel. And guests actually, I mean, even if some might say, "Oh, yeah, I've got to take some days off and stuff," once they're there or once they get excited, I can tell you that they love it, and they have the best time, and they don't regret at all having traveled to your destination wedding in France. So
Yes.
go for it. And, we've got a whole lot of really, really talented people in there. And yeah, it's going to be really special.
Yeah, if I was going to a destination wedding in France, I would tack on another like 3 or 4 days. I would tack on like start the weekend before and then explore other areas before, or explore the area more in depth before the actual wedding, which is always a fun way. As long as you know enough in advance, like that can be one of your vacations for the year that it's a spot that most of us would enjoy going.
Absolutely. And most of all couples guests do that, and they take a few days. I mean, they take a whole week, or, a few days before, a few days after. And especially if they're coming from the US, they usually have a stopover in Paris. So they spend a couple of days in Paris, and then they come to the south of France if the wedding is south of France. And then, if the wedding is in the Riviera, then maybe they go to Italy afterwards. It's just, it's just next door. Yeah, people make it a holiday and have a great time, and a holiday with a wedding in between where everything is served to you and you're greeted and you're welcome. Yeah,
I
it's a
love
great
it.
experience.
I love it. I want to go to a wedding in France now. If anyone is planning one, I will absolutely be your guest.
Maybe I can make you my plus one at one of our weddings.
Yes, please let me know. I will be there at the drop of a dime. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Wedding Dish today and sharing your expertise with us. This was so lovely, such a fun conversation. Where can our listeners find you online?
We've got our website, which is www.evola-weddings.com. We're on Instagram at Evola Weddings. We're on Threads. We're on Pinterest, always at Evola Weddings. So everywhere, really.
And we will, of course, link to you in our show notes and our episode description and tag you on Instagram. So it's super easy for our listeners to find you. And while you are looking up Anne-Laure, please do the same for us. You can follow us on Instagram at The Wedding Dish Podcast, and you can find show notes at theweddingdishpodcast.com. And don't forget to tune in next week. I have another amazing guest coming up for you, and I can't wait for you to listen. And if you like the podcast, give us a follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting platform. And thank you so much for joining me. This truly was such a pleasure. And I hope you all listeners out there got some great information about not just planning a destination wedding in France or just a destination wedding in general, but also thinking through the couple or your experience as the couple and the guest experience and how that makes the whole day go. Thank you so much for joining me. This was so fun.
Thank you so, so much for having me.
Until we meet again. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.